So, Prime Minister, this week, 2 years ago,
yes,
you went into hospital, you went into intensive care. So can we take you back to that moment? Because you've never really spoken about it. And how bad did things get?
Well, I've got to be absolutely clear that whatever happened to me was really mild by comparison with the experience of so many other people, so many thousands of other people in this country. And it was an absolutely appalling pandemic, and remains pretty grim. It hasn't gone away entirely. We've got loads of cases in the country at the moment still, but the good news is we've got a much more protected population. We've got everybody. How many jabs have you had? How many jabs have you had? I bet you've had at least 3.
But going back to you,
and that's made a huge difference.
And I know you don't always like to talk about you, and you don't like to talk about sort of personal things.
Yeah, sure.
But you getting, diagnosed, you had COVID, and going into hospital. What do you remember as you went on that journey 2 years ago to now?
Well, I do remember that it had sort of just started to come to the country in the sense that more and more people were getting it, and I think I'm right in saying that we had some parliamentary friends who'd got it. I think maybe Matt and Nadine, I think had
You're blaming them?
No, I'm not blaming them at all. But yeah, I think there was there was a period, quite a long period, when I.
But you must have known things were sort of going wrong. You would have lost your smell, you wouldn't have been feeling well, you must have known to take in a COVID test, or did you think that was the rigours of being a Prime Minister of a country?
So, don't forget, Esther, this was in the days when a COVID test was a pretty rare thing, and I certainly didn't want to make use of a test that wasn't necessary.
So you delayed getting the test?
No, I wouldn't say that. I just got on with my job because it was a new disease, and we didn't really know very much about it. And the smell thing, I don't remember at all. I don't remember noticing a loss of sense of smell or anything like that. I think I just sort of, I think it was Chris Whittier after a while who said, I think you probably ought to have a test. And
what had he noticed? I mean, what were the symptoms? You carry, pregnant, first child, what was going on sort of in your family, that people have said, look, Boris, you're just not yourself?
I think probably I was spluttering around a bit, and they thought, well, what's all this about? And I certainly didn't feel 100%, and then, you're absolutely right that it was after I'd had it for quite a few days, and I went off and self-isolated, but it kind of didn't go away, and it didn't get better. And then there came the moment when, I said, it's not getting better, and they said, well, we think you ought to go into hospital and have it looked at. As I went into hospital, have it looked at, and they were fantastic. They were wonderful. I heard
there were times you couldn't get up the stairs, and your wife had to help you. Things weren't.
It's certainly anybody who's had COVID, and there are many thousands of people who have been through it in the country today. Will tell you that it can be pretty debilitating. It does put you flat on your back. That's what happened to me. It was in the early stages of our understanding of it. I went into hospital, and it was certainly true that my oxygen levels, for whatever reason, were pretty low. And they put the oximeter on your forefinger, and they monitor you very, very carefully. And they were absolutely brilliant. But for some reason, they couldn't seem to get my oxygen levels to get up to the levels that they wanted. And you should be roughly sort of 94% or above 94% oxygenation of the blood. And I think when I went in, I was in the 80s somewhere, I think. And I then had a pretty groggy night, and went down even lower. But as I've said before, the NHS was absolutely amazing, and I owe everything to two nurses in particular. The whole team was incredible, but there was a nurse called Jenny and a nurse called Louise, and one from New Zealand. Jenny was from New Zealand and Louise was from Portugal, and they were very, very good at making sure that I got the right amount of oxygen at the right time.
So did they put you on a ventilator? Did you want to go on a ventilator?
You know, I had no views about. They didn't put me on a ventilator, but this was, I think, in the early days when we thought generally that getting people onto a ventilator was a good thing. And if you'll recall, we launched this thing called the Ventilator Challenge, and the people, the British industry, British manufacturing, responded heroically, and literally dozens of companies came forward, and not only came forward with ideas, but produced ventilators. Formula One motoring companies produced ventilators from scratch to try to help with the pandemic. It was absolutely amazing. As things went on, I think that the doctors started to recognise that probably there were other treatments that needed to be preferred to ventilation. But you know, there was, as I understand it, there was certainly some question of ventilation.
You clearly want to downplay how serious it was because of what other people have been through, and we understand that. But obviously, for you to go to hospital, it must have been pretty serious. I mean, who said you should go to hospital? Who made that decision that you should go into hospital? I think
it was Philip. I just think it was the medical advice at the time. I think the general view was. I think probably.
See, I have to tell you, Philip, this is a male thing, right? You never want to talk about how you were ill. And I get that. And as a Prime Minister, you might not want to talk about that. So if I say, did it change you as a person?
I had two wonderful doctors called Nick, both from St Thomas's, and it was their sort of view that I probably needed to come in. So it wasn't my idea. But on the, I mean, I think when you're going through something like that, you don't actually think of it in those terms. I was thinking about, you know, all the stuff I had to do, and I mean, I spent most of the time thinking, you know, God, I wish I could I've got to get out of here because I'm pretty certain I've got to do a press conference tomorrow morning. I'm pretty certain we've got to, I've got to be, you know, making some announcement or other, and so I hope it's understandable. I was thinking quite a lot about the stuff I was missing out on, and why I was needed to be doing various things. But Dom Raab did an outstanding job during the time that I was out.
The public were fearful at the time that you were going to die. I mean, that was. Did you fear that? Was that something that you feared at the time?
No, because I was so very well cared for by the NHS, and it didn't occur to me. Though, as I've said, my position did get a bit groggy in the middle of the night. But I think. So I didn't see any of the coverage until, in fact, I still don't think I have seen much of it still. But when I was in, I was obviously thinking about the things I was missing out on, and just worrying that everything was going okay. And of course, when I came out, I found that everybody had done everything I wanted to do, and they'd done a brilliant job.
But on that point, do you think that what happened to you affected any of the decisions that you made regarding lockdowns and restrictions?
I knew. Things like that. Yeah, because I think this has been a line of thought, an inquiry by people. People have said, well, did my own personal experience of having a bad brush with COVID make me more risk averse, which is one way people have characterised the question. And I really think the answer to that is no. I was thinking all the time about the medical advice that we were given, and you know, I just don't think it's the job of the government to take risks with other people's lives. And we tried wherever we could to get the balance right, but the priority was public health and saving life, and we were very clear about that from the beginning.
Just as an illustration, you always strike people as being the least sort of likely to be a nanny state prime minister, and yet as a result, large possibly of what you went through, we're having this thing where we're banning special offers on products that the Department of Health consider to be unhealthy.
Okay, Philip,
we're telling supermarkets where they can put which products they can put on which shelves and whatever. So
we've modified some of that in deference to your wishes.
See, he's getting well now. He's getting well. He's modified some of the nanny state stuff.
Can I just say, because I know that I'm not a nanny state man. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. And if we've got to move away from it, because COVID, we had to look after people. We had to look after people. We really, really did. And I think that, the history of all plagues and diseases shows that the public overwhelmingly want government to take decisions to avert the worst consequences for everybody. Because although people believe in their own personal responsibility, they don't necessarily believe in the sense of personal responsibility of the person next door. And that's the problem when it comes to a pandemic. And that's why government has to act, and that was, I'm afraid, the job we had to do. It wasn't easy. On buy one get one free offers and Terry's chocolate oranges, which I know that you are quite
40% of all products
quite properly addicted to. Let me just say, do you know how much fatter we are post-COVID? I think I saw a figure the other day. This is all, I'm giving you this exclusively, okay? I think there's 36% more obesity. I think can that possibly be right? It's huge. There's been a huge increase in obesity as a result of, or 36% of people are fatter than they were. Maybe that's probably a more accurate way of expressing the statistic. And we were already, before the thing began, Philip, we were already the fattest nation in Europe, with the possible exception of the Maltese. And in the end, that is a massive charge on the taxpayer.
So can I look at this?
And so you and I, Philip, always defend the taxpayer, and the taxpayer is coughing up huge quantities for the consequences of that obesity. And I'm no advertisement for willpower, but we need to recognise.
Can I just go back to that point you just said?
The effects of obesity on our taxes.
So if we talk about lockdown and what happened because of lockdown, you've just given us an example there that obesity has gone up considerably. So
obesity,
for some
mental health issues,
and mental health. So for a lot of us, we always said there's a cost of COVID, and you rightly stood in and protected. We also said there's a cost of lockdown too, and we're looking at that now, whether it is the amount, 400 billion impact on the public's finances. We look at the mental health, we look at the damning Ofsted report of what happened to children through lockdown. So I want to ask, was enough consideration given as you were looking at COVID and lockdown, was enough consideration given to lockdown and what you were doing during lockdown?
What I would say is, if you look at us now, Esther, and you look at what we did, you look what Rishi did with that very prompt, very far-reaching furlough program, all the bounce back loans, all the things that we did. What it did was it protected British jobs, protected British industry, protected British business, so that it put us in a state where we were able to bounce out of it in the way that we have. And that's why we've got the economy growing in the way that we've been able to do, fastest in the G7 for 21, the youth unemployment, I think at a record low, people on payroll.
Massive job vacancies, though, over 1 million.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But we grew up as well. You're younger than me, but when I was growing up as a conservative, the horrifying thing was mass unemployment, and it was millions of people in the 80s and 90s who had the devastating effect on their self-esteem, their self-belief, of feeling that the society, the economy had no place for them. And that was a terrible thing. What we've got now is a shortage of labour. We've got probably 500,000 pairs of hands short in the economy, and what we're doing is getting people into work.
Oh, lockdowns had a huge impact on the economy, though.
Just coming back to Esther's point, Jacob Rees-Mogg said recently that he thought some of the restrictions that were introduced were inhuman. Would you agree with that? He referred to the people separating a mother and son at a funeral. Do you consider some of them to be inhuman? I do, and I think that some of the, well, I mean, I understand why people feel that, and I think that people felt particularly the loss of the ability to see their loved ones in care homes or to meet properly for funerals, or I mean, it was just appalling. To say nothing of the loss of religious services that matter so much to people's spirit. So I totally understand
so
that.
If we had a pandemic again, would you go into a full lockdown?
I want to avoid any such thing ever happening again, and I can't rule out something, Esther. I can't, say that we wouldn't be forced to do non-pharmaceutical interventions again of the kind that we did, but I think we've learned a lot, and I think we would really try to go for the earliest possible program of inoculation and vaccination. I mean, that was
the lockdowns again.
Look, I think it would be irresponsible of any leader, in any democracy, to say that they're going to rule out something that could save life. And I believe that the things that we did saved lives. There could be, I've got to be absolutely frank with you, there could be a new variant, more deadly. There could be a variant that affects children badly, that we really need to contain. I'm not going to take any options off the table, but I don't think it will happen. I think we're now in the phase of, and this is the view of all the advisors I talk to, that we're now in the phase where the virus is losing its potency overall, and we've got a massively vaccinated UK population. What we need to do is double down on that, keep vaccinating, give people their fourth jab. So go into the autumn, make sure people get another jab, and then just keep moving forward.
And without doubt, that has to have been one of the government's greatest successes, the whole vaccine programme, without doubt. You spearheading it, Kate Bingham, without doubt there. One thing, though, that you have been repeatedly questioned on, and we see this week that 20 people did get fines in number 10 Downing Street. People talk about the Partygate as they were going through sort of great upset and turmoil. What is your answer to that now that 20 people have been fined?
Look, first of all, just back to what I was saying about people's feelings about lockdown and the point you were making about some things feeling inhuman to people. I totally understand why people feel as they do, and why people have been so enraged. Of course I understand that, and I've apologised for things that we got wrong in number 10, but I think really on the
and have you got number 10 in a firm grip now? Have you got it under control, number 10 now?
Of course. But on what actually happened, the details, a lot of nonsense has been talked, but I just think it's much better if I wait until the conclusion of the inquiry before saying anything further. I've said I won't comment on it. What I will do is say much more at the end. And what we're getting on with, I've got to let the police get on with their job.
Can I just ask a general question of you,
Yes.
Prime Minister? We're here in the Thatcher room.
I know.
And, everybody knows what Mrs Thatcher believed in. She believed in individual freedom, individual responsibility, the free market, low taxes, sound money. We all know what Thatcherism is. I just wonder, what is Johnsonism? What are the guiding things that anchor your
giving everybody throughout this country the opportunities that they deserve, commensurate with the talents and initiative that they have. It's about levelling up, and I think that's why people came to us in 2019, and why, in spite of all the difficulties that the government has faced, whether it's Ukraine or the pandemic or getting Brexit done, people can see that this is a government that has a mission, and it's a moral and economic mission at the same time, and it's about making sure that the whole of the UK prospers and succeeds in the way that it can. I was mayor of the greatest city on earth. London knocks spots off everywhere else in Europe for productivity. It's incredible, but the thing we need to do is make sure that the Midlands, the Northeast, the Northwest get served by, and I know that was more we should have done to get HS2 to Bradford.
To get rid of HS2.
To
scrap HS2, Boris.
It's about Northern Powerhouse Rail.
Northern Powerhouse Rail.
That's different.
It's about Northern Powerhouse
but not
Rail, and you need HS2 as well as Northern Powerhouse Rail. And what you need to do is give those areas the same confidence that comes from knowing they have a commuter-style network.
And then we'd all agree with that
enables people. So if you're living in the West Midlands, so Andy Street's vision for the West Midlands is one that we've got to drive forward, so that people can get from wherever it is in Wednesbury or Bilston or get into the central activity zone of the West Midlands in Birmingham quickly, easily. Make sure that you have this. Getting from Birmingham to Sheffield is easier and quicker, and getting on to Newcastle is easier and quicker.
And we all agree with that.
And shortening. But look at what we're doing.
And we all agree with that. I think that's spot on.
We are shortening. And what was can I tell you something? I've had lots of days when I felt I wasn't getting my message over. But when we did the integrated rail plan, I mean, that was an incredible thing. We were shortening journey times, and we are going to. It's the biggest investment in rail this country has seen.
But Prime Minister, the question at the moment
all
has
happened.
to be.
I got beaten up by Philip for not putting a fast enough link into Bradford when we're cutting all those journey times across the whole of the country.
But can I ask you about the cost of living? Is that going to be the biggest issue coming forward, the cost of living?
Well, it already is.
It absolutely
is. And it's going to get worse.
It is, and for some of us Conservatives, we would have said, what can we do to help people with the cost of living? We would have said, cut the taxes. We would have said, cut VAT on fuel. You've chosen not to do that. Why?
What we're doing is...
But no, why are you not doing the dropping tax, getting rid of VAT?
Esther, I don't know whether you were for that. But the spring statement was the biggest tax cut. If you take together what Rishi did on the NICS thresholds, which was completion of a promise, fulfilment of a promise that I made in 2019.
Some of us had questioned Nick as well. Why would we ever increase it?
Sorry, no, but we raised the threshold to which before you pay NICS, right?
Yeah. But some of us are even questioning increasing the NIC threshold.
No. But if you increase the threshold, what that does is that takes people out of paying.
Yes, yeah.
And so we raised it from 9,000 to 12,500, and that literally takes 70% of the payers of national insurance contributions got a tax cut as a result of what Rishi did in the spring statement. It was literally the biggest tax cut in the last 10 years, the biggest tax. If you add that to what he said about income tax, and by the way, she had income tax. Various times. By the way, don't forget, at times of difficulty, Mrs. Thatcher had state spending running very, very high as a proportion of GDP because of the economic difficulties that the country was in. So something like COVID, I think she would have dealt with in exactly the same way. What she would not have done, Philip, is said we've got to borrow more, and there are some people who say we should just borrow more and risk interest rates going up and spend and run that risk. We're already spending £83 billion a year servicing our debts. That's crazy. We've got to keep a tight grip on it. So if you just cut taxes, you've got to find the money from somewhere. We've already cut taxes very considerably, but we need to make sure that we invest in our NHS at the same time. And so the cost of living crisis is best fixed by tackling the immediate problems people are facing, cost of fuel, helping people with their heating costs, the whole 9.1 billion package that Rishi has put together, but also making sure that people have high-wage, high-skilled jobs. That in the end is what the Thatcher revolution delivered, and you're now seeing, and she turned Britain around from being a place where there was habitually high levels of unemployment to a place where people knew that going to work was the best option, and that is what we want to see. We are getting people into work and into high-wage, high-skilled jobs. What we want is high-wage, high-skilled jobs with a great deal of security, so that people can know that they have the freedom and the opportunity to do things that they want to, like buy their own home,
I know,
have
I know
the
we're
holidays they
running
want.
out of time. I know we've only got a certain amount of time with you. And I just,
Have I filibustered
and
my way through this?
Yes, you did.
You have.
And I just wondered if you did want to answer anything, if there is time, on Zelensky.
I think most of the world will accept that the UK have been leading the way in helping Ukraine. President Zelensky said that himself. We were on a parliamentary delegation to the US last week where they acknowledged how we'd been leading the world in supporting Ukraine. I just wondered how you saw the conflict ending and what more we can do to help those Ukrainians who are seeking refuge in the UK, who are sort of being held up by the sort of form filling and bureaucracy.
Yeah.
If there was any more we could do to be able to get them out of Ukraine a bit quicker.
Yeah. So first of all, on helping the Ukrainians to come here, we've already given visas to tens of, I think, almost 30,000 people, and the number is climbing quite fast. And that's a good-sized town now, and it will continue to grow. British people have shown him amazing generosity, warm-heartedness. 200,000 homes, families open for Ukrainians to come here. We will help them get here as fast as we can. I was just talking to the president of Poland, who was in here a few moments ago, talking to him about what we're doing to help them get people out of Ukraine into the UK. We just put another £30 million in today to help in Poland. So we're all over that. But the best thing to do, and what the Ukrainians really want, is to live in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And what those women and children want is to be back in their own homes. And so to your first point, we've got to make sure that Putin fails in his catastrophic attempt to conquer, subdue, destroy another country, a neighbouring Slavic country. And the UK is not in the business of engaging itself or NATO in direct conflict with Russia. That would not be sensible. But what we can do is give them maximum economic, political, and military support to Ukrainians to defend themselves. And what this war has revealed is that Putin was fundamentally wrong in that bizarre essay that he wrote. He was fundamentally wrong. He said that Ukraine wasn't really a proper country and that it should be a part of Russia, essentially. That has proved to be the diametric opposite of the case. The Ukrainians love their country. They will fight to the end for their country. There is no way that Putin can now succeed. That is the brute, unarguable fact of the case. What we have to do now is make sure that we continue to give the Ukrainians the help and support that they need, continue to intensify the sanctions,
And did this war
and
show
continue
the strength
to
of
show
British intelligence?
to show more military support and other support. And on intelligence, I think that if you look back at the previous few weeks, it was clear that US and UK intelligence was pretty much on the money.
Prime Minister, thank you so much.
Thank you both very much. It's been an honour. Been surprised. I thought that was going to be much more. Particularly about that. I was worried about. I knew the chocolate oranges was coming. Anyway, thank you for your time. I'm sorry we haven't. I'm sorry. It's been so long delayed. But
Hey, listen, you've had a lot on your plate,
We appreciate
even if it was a chocolate orange.
they're very good chocolate oranges. Very good.
We now know what he likes.
Exactly,
Chocolate
absolutely,
oranges.
it was.
We didn't reference ever a chocolate orange. That's you.
Yes, that might be true. That might be true.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.